Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles the Banter, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Bro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty crazy show in store for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. Also, we're going to be launching an exclusive Dreamers Pro community in less than 2 weeks. If you guys want early access to receive a one-time offer, only available to people on the waiting list, please make sure you go ahead and do that. We have that pinned in the comments below. We got about 500 signups right now, so if you want to be a part of that, please check that out in the description in the comments below. Anyway, let's get into today's topic. Okay. Yesterday, some news came out surrounding Malika Andrews, an interview that she did, or a sit-down that she did, I believe, with DeMar DeRozan. And the topic was broached about her perceived disdain for black men and black athletes in particular. And she finally broke her silence and decided to respond to what the critics have been saying about her. Now, look, Malika Andrews has a history. Okay, she has a history that has been documented of her being rude to men, trying to disgrace them on live TV, covering black athletes in particular whenever they screw up, and then all of a sudden going silent on players like Josh Giddey. This is her history. Okay, she turned me off during that back and forth for her and Stephen A. Smith on ESPN a few years ago, where she essentially tried to go on his show and scold him and basically dictate the terms of the show and what will be discussed and what won't be discussed. Number one. Number two, without any evidence, she already came to the conclusion that Ime Udoka was this bad person. She didn't even want to hear them talk about the woman that he had a complicit relationship with. She didn't want to hear any of that. Then you had, I believe, the Brandon Miller situation. You had Joe Mazzulla. You had that one. You had the way she spoke to her colleague Kendrick Perkins on TV. You had all of these different instances and moments. But now all of a sudden, Malika Andrews wants to tell us that no, it's unfair. Right? We're looking at it the wrong way, and it's not what we really think it is. So what happened? This morning I was going through the internet, and I came across an article from awfulannouncing.com, and it says Malika Andrews on criticism over coverage of black NBA stars. And then it says it's just untrue and it's just unkind. So this is the article that we want to get into today. But before we even get into what this article had to say, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, GameTime. With the year almost over, I am super excited about creating memories with family and friends by attending various plays, theater shows, and sporting events. And when it comes time to look for tickets, GameTime is my go-to. GameTime is one of the most reliable marketplaces for last-minute tickets to the most popular events in sports, music, and theater in more than 60 cities across the United States and Canada. GameTime saves me money, time, and stress. It finds the best deals and guarantees that the tickets are legit, and it makes sure that the tickets are delivered to me on time. GameTime Picks is my favorite tool. It cuts through the fluff and shows you the best deals on great seats near you so you don't waste time searching. For example, I'm really looking forward to this game coming up between the Grizzlies and the Lakers. Here's what I like to do. First, I select an all-in price to see the total ticket price up front, so I'm not surprised by the additional fees at checkout. Next, I click on GameTime Picks to check out their curated deals. And finally, I pick the ticket I want. I choose the cheapest deal, the great deal, or the amazing deal. Once you select the ticket you want, you can use their panoramic seat view to ensure you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and use redeem code CLNS for $20 off. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So let's get into what this article said. It continues on. Even by standards of the league driven by internet nonsense, the narratives amongst NBA fans online regarding ESPN studio host Malika Andrews have gotten out of hand, starting with an on-air argument with Stephen A. Smith on First Take regarding the dismissal of Ime Udoka's Boston Celtics head coach in 2022 for an extramarital affair with a female team staffer. Controversy has followed Andrews' through her coverage of nearly every major off-court scandal in the NBA since then, whether it was Andrews' focus on the 2023 number 2 NBA draft pick Brandon Miller's involvement in the shooting, or that she apparently did not focus enough on alleged sexual indiscretion of Chicago Bulls forward Josh Giddey last season, Andrews has found it hard to please hoop fans. The end result, reinforced by random parties like former Dallas Cowboy receiver Des Bryant, is a perception that Andrews is biased in her coverage of black players and their off-court issues. The host of NBA Today and NBA Countdown addressed those accusations in a recent episode of Dinner with DeMar, a mental health YouTube show hosted by outspoken advocate and NBA All-Star DeMar DeRozan. That's been the hardest thing for me sometimes, is stomaching the falsehoods, particularly the idea of you hate black men. That couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. And using my family or the way my family looks as some sort of evidence of that, Andrews explains, and it's just untrue and it's just unkind. We all have jobs to do, and I try to do my best to show up every day that know what I'm about. Andrews comes from a mixed race family and recently married white ESPN reporter Dave McMenamin. The most hateful and parasocial viewers in Andrews' online mentions likely use the racial background of her family to make their case about the bias they allege. And then it continues on. While revolted by that mentality, Andrews didn't shield herself from accountability. That doesn't mean that I've covered every story perfectly. It doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes, Andrews told DeRozan. But I think I'm pretty good at saying to you guys, I could have been better. And that's, I hope we can keep as social media continues to be bigger in the world, that kindness and that humanity that I worry sometimes we are losing. And I try very hard to make it so that things that I've experienced, I try to keep that in mind when I'm talking about players. I try to have that empathy and understand that I have a job to do, but also understand that I'm not here to play gotcha, Andrews said. I say this, that oftentimes, especially before I'm talking to folks about things that are sensitive or tough, because these things come up and it's hurtful. And I think that it's okay to say sometimes, particularly for me, when it's not true. Okay, so that's what she had to say. There. What are my thoughts on this? I'm not buying any of this. None of this whatsoever. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying any of this. I'm not, oh, I feel sorry for her, or it's sad, or it's untrue, how cruel the world has become. I'm not buying any of this. The reason why I'm not buying it is because I saw the moments. All right, I saw the moments. Okay, Malika Andrews comes off to me, at the very least, as a sexist. That's how she comes off to me. She comes off to me as a person that views men as all bad and women as all good. And I have examples of this. The one example was the Ime Udoka incident that took place on ESPN, where Stephen A. Smith tried to mention about the other party involved, and she said, we're not here to blame women. Who said we're blaming women? And more importantly, can't we just turn around and say we're not here to blame men? I'm confused. You think it's okay to talk about the guy because that's business as usual at ESPN. To take a crap on men and black guy, that's ESPN for you. Okay, that's the environment that they've created. But the minute Stephen A. Smith tried to bring it up, you try to shut him down. When Kendrick Perkins tried to bring up the other host, you shut him down as well. So you're not fair and balanced. You are for women, number one. Number two, you have a history of chronicling every negative thing that happens with black male athletes, period. This is not what I'm making up. This is not my emotion. This is the evidence that we have in front of us. But when the Josh Giddey situation occurred, we couldn't find you. We couldn't find you. All of the investigative journalism went out the window. Even with the situation when Joe Mazzulla was being hired, you then decided to bring up an incident that took place when he was in college. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? You decided that was pertinent information for the audience. So you're the one doing this digging. You could have said a bunch of things about Joe Mazzulla, but you chose to highlight that. The same way you chose to highlight the negative aspect of Brandon Miller. This is you. And another one that I don't vibe with is Sage Steele. I don't vibe with her. I remember what she said about the Barack Obama, the black fathers and all of that. I was offended by that. I was offended by it. So I don't vibe with the Malika Andrews and the stage. I don't vibe with that. She has a history of it. Am I buying this? Talking about, oh, the internet is a place where people say mean things and all. It's like, have you not seen yourself on the internet before? You're talking, Malika Andrews is acting like as if she's some victim here. Like, who are we kidding? Who told you to go as hard as you did on these athletes? What gave you the impetus to go on Stephen A. Smith's show and try to show him up like that? What gave you that confidence? The reason you have that confidence is because you, as a woman, in your mind, feel like you can talk to a man any kind of way. Any kind of way. Even if it's a guy that's almost twice your age and is the face of the network. That said a lot about your character, I'm sorry to say, or I'm not. So I'm not buying any of this. I'm not buying any of it. You can go tell it to the birds. You can go sing this to the birds because they'll be interested in hearing this song. I ain't interested in hearing it. I ain't buying it. You've had too many instances where you just went off the rails with it. And I ain't buying it. Y'all can buy into it. Y'all can feel sorry for her. I don't. Somebody say, oh, well, ESPN is forcing her. ESPN is forcing you to do anything you don't want to do. ESPN is saying, do this. You don't have to do it. Did ESPN say go as hard as you did on Ime Udoka on Stephen A. Smith's show and call him? ESPN said call up Stephen A. Smith on his show and try to start reprimanding him on live TV. ESPN told you to do that. No, you felt comfortable within yourself because you're sexist, in my view, to feel like you can talk to a guy any kind of way. You shut off Kendrick Perkins when he tried to bring up the other person. ESPN forced Jalen Rose to issue a public apology for daring to say, but what about the other party involved? That's the network you work for. So ESPN is complicit in this. These are my thoughts. Whoever feels away, that's your business. Whatever y'all think, please leave your thoughts in the comments. We catch you on the next show. Peace.